Hi. So I committed to sending out a video about turnarounds, and I'm going to start being a lot more casual about making these videos, not necessarily, oh, look at her, need to get a cameraman involved or anything else. So I'm hoping this still works for you. I had a question today from someone who wanted to know a little more about turnarounds or have some resources. And he also asked about judging. And I wasn't sure the exact nature of his question about judging, but a little later after I answered him about turnarounds, he said, but what about the judgment where I'm just really upset that it's going to rain for our 4th of July plans? And so I really wanted to talk about that a little bit first and then move into the turnarounds. So these kinds of judgments where you just don't want reality to show up the way it is can be such an amazing gift. And once you realize it, you start to become willing to look more carefully, to really see for yourself and become curious, what is my mind saying to me right now that's making me feel so bad? It's making me really hate this reality that's showing up here and resist it and not want it and only see the worst in it. What's that about? And once you realize that by harvesting those exact thoughts and then letting them have their life and questioning them, finding out, are they really true for you and what are the consequences of believing them, things start to clear up. So without telling him exactly how to handle that problem, one of the things I suggested is just, well, for example, if we did the work on the thought, it shouldn't rain on us. The parade's coming, there's lightning, there's all the things that are going to keep the fireworks from happening. There's no good place to hold this picnic when it's raining. All of that's going on and you're just like sick about it, and as it's coming up you're not enjoying the preparations. And so anyway, that's what happens when you do the work on that. You can it shouldn't rain on us, and you're believing that even while it's raining. So is it true? Can you absolutely know it's true that it shouldn't rain on you? And then you get a chance to really observe how you react when you believe that thought. What happens? How do you feel? What do you say? What do you do? What do you not enjoy? What do you start to believe? How do you treat yourself? How do you treat others? All of that falls under how do you react? What happens? And then who would you be if somehow you couldn't believe that thought at all? Think of yourself maybe as a dog or a baby. Rain comes and there isn't the thought, it shouldn't be raining on us. So notice yourself. And then just because the question was about the turnarounds, I'm going to go right to that. So in this case, it shouldn't be raining. Now there's 3 kinds of turnarounds. If you turn it around to the opposite, it should be raining. The original thought was it shouldn't be raining on us. Or no, it was actually, I'm sorry. It's good to write these down, that's why. It shouldn't rain on us. So the turnaround to the opposite is it should rain on us. Now find 3 examples. How could that possibly be true? It's the 4th of July. Thousands of dollars have been spent on fireworks. Well, it should rain on us because it is. That is, if it is. It should rain on us because the rain has allowed me to do this amazing inquiry and find the part of me that would separate from reality. And maybe you'll find it should rain on us because we're all going to huddle in the living room and have the most intimate time together that we wouldn't have had if we could have spread out in the park or the yard. So those are the kinds of examples you're looking for. And then in the second turnaround, you can do these in any order, but I'm going to go to the turnaround to the other. You always put yourself. So the first one, You take, if it's a shouldn't, you make it a should. If it's a should, you make it a shouldn't. If it's a whatever is the opposite version of that. And sometimes it can go even into a positive version. Like if you say someone is disgusting, and you could do the turnaround, someone is not disgusting, or you could do someone is amazing, and that's kind of the positive version of not disgusting, whatever adjective comes to you as a good opposite for that. And okay, so back to, that would be the turnaround to the opposite. The turnaround to the other, you just put yourself in the first position pronoun. So you look in, turnarounds, by the way, is what I wrote to him. It's always about wanting to find your part. It's wanting to find, how is it true that I don't need this thing to be any different than it is? That's the opposite. And how is it that I'm doing this thing? I'm feeling like a victim of someone or something else, kind of like coming at me. But get really curious. Oh my goodness, how am I doing this same thing to them? So that's the turnaround to the other. I shouldn't rain on it. It shouldn't rain on me, on us. I shouldn't rain on it. So the it here is basically reality. You're raining on reality's glorious, grand unfolding parade with your thinking that it shouldn't be raining. So I shouldn't rain on it by believing a thought that's out of alignment with what's happening. I shouldn't rain on it by lacking creativity about what a perfect day it could be, even though it's raining. I shouldn't rain on it by separating from the ways it's supporting me exactly as it is. So that's a turnaround to the other, and 3 examples for that. And then the turnaround to the self is always putting yourself, the other and the self, you put your own self in the first position of whoever or whatever you were judging. You say, okay, me, I'm curious about me. What's my part? So how am I doing to them and to myself exactly what I felt they were doing to me? So the turnaround to the self on this one would be, I shouldn't rain on myself. What are you really doing and saying to yourself when all this happens? How do you just close your heart to what's actually happening, what's taking care of you in all these perfect ways, but you're closing your heart to it, and usually to yourself. You're just, that is closing to yourself in a way, because all of it's you, a reflection of you. And so when you hate the reality that's unfolding, you've placed some part of you outside of the sphere of lovableness. And you have, so how are you doing that? How do you beat yourself up? How do you say, oh, we shouldn't have planned a picnic today anyway? If only it was this, if only I had shown up differently. The ways that you rain on yourself, on your own parade, the way you've come to find out that it was never the rain that took away your joy to start with, or your fun. It was you believing your thought that it shouldn't be raining and following that one down the rabbit hole. So I want to leave you with this. It was just a little practice in turnarounds. If you're doing the work on yourself, I shouldn't be so rigid around this, for example. That's one of the thoughts that came up when that's how you treat yourself. You beat yourself up for being upset that it's raining. You get really hard on yourself. And so you can do the work on that. Mostly we try to point it out at something else, but if it really feels like you are just beating yourself up and you want to find some peace, you can say, do the work on the thought, I shouldn't be so rigid. So the turnaround to that, though, because you've already done yourself, you've already said what you are doing. So the turnaround to that, after you do the opposite, I should be so rigid, and then the other one is very simple, my thinking shouldn't be so rigid. And you find how, your thinking, it is the thing that's rigid. It's not that it's bad or it needs to change, but you just observe, oh, it's very black and white. I don't want to trust it. It makes predictions, very rigid predictions about the future that don't come true. It makes interpretations about the past that aren't necessarily accurate. You know, my thinking is so rigid, and that's what's creating the pain here. It has nothing to do with the rain. So, you know, that's what happens when you're doing the work on yourself. The second turnaround, there's really probably just two. It's the opposite and then my thinking. So try those. And for the most part, I just want to leave you with that idea that this is really openness, curiosity. You just are fearlessly wanting to find your part, because that's what's going to bring you. I mean, it's like you don't have to wait around for everything else to change. You get to find your part and not beat yourself up for it. You didn't create it. You just believed a thought that occurred to you. And you can be really, really compassionate and kind to yourself about that, and you can also make amends to the people that you've hurt along the way when you were believing your thoughts. But start with making amends to yourself by finding, you know, where is it? Turn this around. Get really curious and see it as a friend, not as a scary thing to learn about. All right, love you. Take care. Bye.